Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Kanga TV, the home of North Melbourne fans. And I'm back with my best friend, Pommy. Hi, Pom.
You're right there, bestie. How we doing?
I'm good. I'm very, very good. Very happy that the draft is over. It was obviously a very eventful few weeks. And I'm pretty happy with what North have done over the 2-day extravaganza. And we're going to talk all about it. We caught up probably about a month ago, trade draft period chat, and we had a discussion about what North would do with pick two. That was probably one of the biggest questions going into the draft period. We now have the answers. They held on to pick two, but they traded a few other picks, and they are probably still the talking point of the draft period coming out as they were going in. Just as an overall sort of first look at it before we dive a bit deeper, what did you make of North's draft period and haul?
I actually liked it. I know the Matt Whitlock trade is going to be the talk of the town, and I do think it was worded really badly as well. Because I remember I was live for this, but when I came off, I remember there was this real shocking headline: North trade future, risk it all, and then like they made it out like you just traded a future first and got nothing back, but you did get their second back. So I think if you actually look at it and we look at what that trade cost, you got a second rounder, and then you slide back. Probably, if you look at the bookies odds, if you look at the bookies odds, you've lost 20 places. But I actually think North are going to rise. I don't think they're going to be bottom three like they're predicted. I've got a feeling you might surprise people and be about 12th in
Mm-hmm.
there. I could see that be the ceiling. I think Clarko ain't a mug.
No.
So that trade's going to be a Russian roulette. But what I liked was the statement of that trade. That is telling me as North Melbourne, if I was a North Melbourne fan, we're
Mm-hmm.
not going to the future all the time. We are the now. This is the
Yeah.
last draft. This time next year, we're looking at ready-made talent. We're looking at complementing the pieces. We're looking at re-signing players. We're no
Mhm.
longer a draft. We're no longer on the teat of the draftee.
Yeah.
We're now ready. We're now going to school. We're,
Yeah.
we're now independent.
They're
We do
going.
our own school lunches. So
Yeah.
I like the message that sent. And Jack Whitlock, I think, is what all North fans wanted a player. I mean, Matt Whitlock, he's the player that you all wanted, a key defender who can slide forward.
Yeah.
I think you've obviously target acquired. I like it.
Yeah. I think so too. I agree. And I made this statement after the first night of the draft. I think in my mind, going into the trade and the draft period, I've been really bullish on what North can do next season. They identified they wanted some real experience and key talent, and they acquired that during the trade period. And then in the draft period, they've gone to the draft, they've picked up Finn O'Sullivan. That is another really classy midfielder and is just going to add to a list of very young, very talented midfielders that we have picked up over the past few seasons, being at that top end of the draft. We've gone after Matt Whitlock. He's obviously someone that we really, really needed. You and I spoke last week and we both agreed that if North picked up Alex Tyree with pick two, we'd probably just tear our hair out because no disrespect, he's a very, very talented player. And I think we can all acknowledge that. Not worth pick two. And the last time we picked up from memory, and I touched on this too, the last time we picked up a key position player within the top 10 was Lockie Hansen in 2006. Serviceable, fine. I'm sure most teams would have picked him up around that same mark. Was a bust. Like, really, for pick three, was a bust. But then in that same draft, with pick 37, we picked up Todd Goldstein, played over 300 games for the club, All Australian, Sid Barker medalist. And then even in recent times, and this is more the unicorn, diamond in the rough sort of thing, both Tristan Sherry and Nick Larkey were taken with picks in the 70s. So there's no guarantee that we take him at pick two. Tyree was never going to be worth it. Yes, Armstrong or Trainer might have been nice, but we clearly rated Whitlock really, really high. I'm sure the club would have been really happy if they were able to walk away with both Whitlocks, which I've heard was the plan. So I think from my perspective, and you hit the nail on the head, this for me, I was bullish going in, and now the club's moves and the messaging around what the club's done says to me, yeah, we're ready to go here. Like, we're so ready to go. And next season is going to be a massive year for us. I like the pressure that it puts on the club to now perform because we've been waiting for so long to put all the pieces together. And I feel like the cannon's finally loaded up and now we're just ready to go, go, go.
No, I think you nailed it. And I also think when you look at it as well, when everyone was talking about what you guys needed, what you really wanted, everyone was saying the key word, key defender. And I think you look in this draft, 27 was Matt Whitlock, but then you look at the two key defenders, bunny ears time. You've got 193 Alex Tyree, who I don't think will live as a key defender in his future. I think St Kilda is the perfect place for him to go because they're going to use him as a third. They've got the big bodies, and I don't think he's going to end up that 195, 197 player. So I don't think he's the type you've got because you've got what Toby Pink at the
Yeah,
minute is. You've got projects in that key position, but you
yeah,
want a genuine long-term Jacob Wheaton, the guy that's you're gonna build your defense around.
yeah,
Rumors are you've went for every pick from pick 8.
yeah,
So you look, there's only two defenders that went who are key. Him, Tyree, and Luke Trainer. And Luke Trainer, so a few injuries, the concussions. He slid down for a reason, probably a risk. Probably a
yeah,
risk. And again, he's that awkward size as well, Luke Trainer, where I think he's more his skill set is that intercepting coming from the side, high flyer, who's all well and good when you've got two key position players who are 22. When
yeah.
you're building your defense from the start, a 198 big Matt Whitlock who can pinch it forward, I
Hmm.
think makes sense long term.
Yeah,
So I think you missed out on two key defenders. I actually think you got the best one for what you need,
yeah.
which is a big guy who's going to be the fullback for 20 years.
I agree with you. And I think the messaging around taking him at, at the end of the first round, hypothetically, we were able to get in sooner. The chances are we probably would have taken him anyway. The club clearly rated him super highly in this draft and were really desperate to get him, which is why they tried to make that move. But had we gone in and hypothetically we got Richmond's pick, I don't know, whatever, 18, hypothetically speaking, and gave up future first and drafted Matt Whitlock with pick 18, is the messaging still the same? Is the messaging still North stuffed up? Stuffed up, I use that, because they haven't. Or is it more applauded because they took the same player 10 picks before?
You see, I always say this, your draft position is subjective. So it's really subjective. So I reckon the article would have been, let's just say you got Richmond's, where they took Luke Trainer, pick 21, it was 18 on draft night. I
Yeah,
guarantee if Luke Trainer was on there and you'd taken Matt Whitlock per se, everyone would have said, oh, the pundits had Matt Whitlock between 25 and 35. They've traded up. They've taken him too early. What are Roos doing? That would have
yeah,
been the messaging. But you mentioned a load of North Melbourne players who were pick 70s, pick 30s, pick 50s. If only the draft was pick 1 is the best player, pick 2 is the second best player, and so on and so forth.
yeah,
In real life, pick 38 could be better than pick 4.
yeah,
And also, it's how much you want to pay. How
yeah,
much do you see his future? So I am confident if I was a Roos fan, they've targeted Matt Whitlock is our man. That's who we're building our defense around.
yeah.
This pick, regardless of all 20 list spots, we may be overpaid. If that delivers you a flag in 2029, have you overpaid?
No.
And I always say this, if he delivers you a flag or
Yeah,
gets you in the position to, I reckon every list manager in the IFL would trade 2 firsts for that opportunity. If you just said to them,
100%.
give us, don't you pass on your 2 first picks, and
Yeah.
we promise in 4 years' time you will win a flag, all the
Mm.
list managers would pass. They'd,
Yeah.
they'd be like, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah, it's one of them where time will answer the question. But on paper, I like it. I like what North did.
I like it too. I also think what we give up a first rounder for next year. Hypothetically, North finish. Okay, so North probably won't play finals, so that pick probably lands in the top 10, say. What are we going to do? Pick up another midfielder? We've been criticized so much for being a team full of midfielders, but that is the reality of it. The best talent over the past few seasons and most seasons in the draft, the top talent are midfielders. And so North are taking best available. Even Finn O'Sullivan this year, we've taken Finn O'Sullivan, undeniably good talent. And of course, being at the bottom of the ladder for so many years now, I don't think you can ever bring in enough good talent. and enough good midfielders, despite the fact we probably have so many, what are we going to do? Go back to the draft next year, do the same thing and be criticized again internally and externally? It's not worth it for us. We absolutely have to act now. And the club did see the opportunity to do so while still acquiring a very talented midfielder in Finn O'Sullivan. He was one of two players, potentially three, looking at Jagger Smith, who could have gone in that number one pick. Sam Lawler ended up going with pick one. Tell us a little bit about Finn O'Sullivan and what he might be able to bring to North.
Yeah, yeah. You see, when we did the video, we talked about pick two, and I think Finn O'Sullivan was our selection. I know throughout my draft video on my channel, I've been saying they're mental if they don't take Finn O'Sullivan pick two. And the reason I like Finn is I look at all the kids you've got there, all the midfielders you've drafted. I think Finn is the nice complement. I
Yeah.
look at your young midfielders in that core. I know people are saying, oh, Phillips, he could be world class, but let's stick in the realms of likelihood. You look at the young ones, George Wardlaw, Sheasel, McKercher. These kids are different to Finn, and Finn is powerful. He's strong. He ain't an accumulator. He's a
Yeah.
line breaker. He's got a leap that's ridiculous. I know everyone's saying, but Pommy's 180. We need a big body. Look at the modern day mids. They're seeming to get smaller, but then they've got the traits to play big. So if you watch Finn when he has played, he probably plays 192 the way he leaps and the way he can take them marks. I think he's a dream asset because I look at Sheasel, who his knock in his draft year was he doesn't find enough ball. He's not a great user. He's got no midfield craft. I think he's dispelled that myth.
Yeah.
I think now you're looking at a guy here who can give you a real point of difference as well. So I really
Yeah.
like that selection. And I think it's a great compliment because you did pair it up with another midfielder a bit later on who we'll talk about, who I was really excited about, of saying that you can see the plan here from North. North
Yeah.
have created the cake of midfielders. Have got a plan here. I like it.
So when we initially drafted Luke Urquhart, I was like, another mid. Great. Awesome. That's exactly what we need. And I said that to you and Terry watched on Thursday night. We're watching your live stream on with you and Terry, obviously from Blue Abroad. And I said that to the two of you. I was like, great. And I'll admit, I love it. But then learning a little bit about him and reading into what Luke Urquhart can bring, we don't have that big bodied in and under midfielder. A lot of I mean, Will Phillips is our core inside mid who wins a lot of the ball. But like you said, he could be anything, but we haven't seen it yet. So you can't go off that. Hugh Greenwood was our big bodied midfielder who didn't get any game time and then retired at the end of the season, which obviously I'm not over yet, but I'll get there. So we had to bring in someone. He is another point of difference, and learning a bit more about him makes me realize that Luke Urquhart actually is a really great asset for our side. And as you said, we've put all the pieces together and there are so many different kinds of midfielders. And it seems like these are the two sort of finishing touches that we needed.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer of what you can learn around you at training. So if you look at the weaknesses of Luke as a footballer, I saw some comments that really annoyed me where people were mocking it, and there were opposition fans, but they were like, "Who's he learning off? North are full of hacks and kids." I think people forget how good LDU is. Like LDU is definitely top five in his position, and when his contract comes to end, I guarantee he has close to 17 offers. Like every club will have a sniff at LDU.
Yeah.
And I look at it from a Carlton point of view. We had Cripps for so long and we kept giving him help. That was B grade, C grade. We had a lot of Will Phillipses on our list. It's okay. This time next year, XYZ will be the player to help Cripps. And we had so many next years that eventually we
Yeah.
had to go and buy George Hewitt. We had
Yeah.
to get him the help now. I
Yeah.
look at Luke and I think he is everything Clarko loves in a midfielder. He's got pace. He's quick thinking. He's a natural born leader, and we know Clarkson loves captains. He
Yeah.
loves to build lists.
Yeah.
But then you look at him, he's the perfect complement. In a couple of years, say LDU signs on long term, he's got the perfect offside of that frees up Luke. Because I think LDU is better than he is at the moment. I think it's a bit like Patrick Cripps. If you can get him more offensive, you're
Yeah.
going to see how great he is. He's more than a winner, a ball winner, more than a big guy.
Yeah.
And I look at Luke, and he's the type of player you want, putting his head over the ball, winning the ball out. Everyone says, oh, he can't kick. Not many players that just wrestle the ball out like him do kick
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So I really like this one. One for the future, definitely. But I suddenly think that midfield, you've got Wardlaw, Urquhart, LDU being more of the extra that you can throw in when you need help, becoming like a Dusty, like a Lockie Neal, like we've seen recently, where coaches use them in a moments as
Hmm.
opposed to from minute 1 to minute 90. You've got
Yeah.
to do it, just doing it in situations. With Shizo, like I look at your midfield with Finn O'Sullivan, at a shadow of a doubt, 2026, this is the midfield that we all pay to watch. At the
Yeah.
moment, it's Hawthorn, Brisbane, Carlton to a lesser extent. This is an exciting. This is you're going to play sexy football in 2 years.
Great. I can't wait. It's been pretty boring for quite a while. So it'll be nice to have something to be excited about. But I do agree with you. Like, She's is still young, and people like the way he speaks, the way he presents and carries himself. You'd think She's was in his mid-20s, right? But he really only had his first season in the midfield this year. And we already saw with him coming into the midfield to genuinely start taking a bit of load off LDU. It did allow LDU to push forward. He was able to have an impact on the scoreboard against Richmond. He kicked 3 goals, which I think was probably his best performance I think I've ever seen him play. And he did win his first Sid Barker medal at the end of the year. And he was, I think, everyone knew he was talented, but I think he was really recognised amongst the competition's best players and best midfielders this season for sure. And I think having that help from Harry really, really allowed him to take that next step. I think a lot of people don't realize, but like George Wardlaw, we love George. He's courageous, he's tough at the ball, he's fearless. He also can't kick. He cannot kick to save his life. We had Charlie Comben at our live show for Further North at the start of the year, and Charlie said that George kicking it into the forward 50 is like a helicopter. Like, you just don't know where it's going to go. But for all the great assets he has, people are a little bit more lenient on his inability to kick and have a bit of polish by foot. So for someone like Luke Urquhart, I'm sure there'll be people that he can learn off, and he can work on that craft. I think the one concern I had on draft night, and I can't say that I had this going in, but when I was watching you talk about the players that were still available around that pick 50 odd, Jasper Alga was a small forward, and you were really keen on him and just thought he was a great asset and something that we probably really do need, because our small forward stocks are very, very scarce. Jaden Stevenson retiring at the end of the year. That's probably why we gave Cooper Harvey an extra year on his contract. We do have Robert Hansen Jr., which he was quite good by the end of the season. Like, he did show a little bit towards the end of the season. River Stevens was the last player we picked up. He's a father-son of Anthony Stevens, club legend, dual premiership player. Seems like there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to perform and potentially perform in like pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think you look at Clarkson's history of players he likes. I don't want to build River Stevens up, but I'll use the analogy. He just remind me of Poppy at Hawthorn.
Okay.
You kind of need the
Yeah.
Cyril Rioli,
Yeah.
but his ability to put that pressure on, to do the second and third efforts, Clarkson loves that pressure-based forward, and River, I think, nails that. I think when you look at him this year, particularly in the juniors for Geelong, who are a very rigid team, they're very systematic.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a tackle menace. He was a menace, putting that pressure on it. He likes the scrap, and he even did that at Vic Country as well. He likes to chase people down using his pace. I do think as well, I think hot North Melbourne fans forget. You've got that. I think the big thing that you miss is you kind of do miss that Taron Thomas, that player that was that third, who
Yeah.
was that target. And
Yeah.
people are forgetting about my boy, Braden George,
Oh, I love
who
George.
in his draft year, 2022, he was one of my favourite forwards in that.
Yeah.
So I look at he's technically a new signing. He's just not got going.
Yeah. Injury after injury after injury.
Yeah, like this kid's cursed. He must have kicked a cat as a kid. But providing he can return from it, he is a big version of Jasper Olga. He's
Yeah.
quick. He can make the unthinkable happen. He's a natural footballer. And the things that he's got, I don't think would be affected by injury because he's just a natural, clever footballer.
Mhm.
So I actually like that compliment. And I always say this, small forwards, they always come pick 50 after the draft. So next year, this can be another area of concern. Hopefully, we're doing this preview next year and we're saying the ruck works, the forward line works, the back
Mhm.
line works, the midfield's got the development. We'd like them little icing things. So that's where that second rounder comes in. That's where the smalls come in
Yeah.
and point a difference. So I think you've got the cake now. I think North have done it. And I do want to give a shout out to a midfielder forward that everyone forgets. Jai Simpkin will look at the guys you've brought in and gone, great, this makes my
Yeah.
life a little bit easier.
Yeah. Because
So,
he's also dangerous going forward. I
yeah,
think it's about potentially shuffling the magnets a little bit. And I think for a very, very long time, we have lacked genuine depth. But I think, and I spoke about this at the end of the trade period when we brought in Caleb Daniel, my first thought was like, does this mean Zach Fisher isn't working already after the first season? But it's not necessarily true. It just means we actually are starting to build genuine depth and genuine competition for spots, which hopefully starts to raise the floor. Because for so long, there are players who have probably been gifted games on the back of having no one else available in these positions. But now we actually have quality people and picks to choose from. And it will end up that we make some harsh calls, and it ends up that we, do things that we might not have been able to do 12 months ago. But football, as emotional of a game as it is, and as emotionally invested as we are as fans, it's just a business at the end of the day. And we've got to make tough calls to be able to get better on field to lead us towards ultimate success.
it's fascinating because I remember when Carlton were 2018 and like my mates support Ray of teams and they always used to say this to me, Pommy, your list isn't that bad though. You get a few players here and there. You'll come back. You've got so much talent. And they used to say that to me, and I used to think we're rubbish. Like you're just making me feel better. What are you on about, mate?
Yeah.
But I actually look at your list and like I heard the small forward complaint. You've also got a guy that I think is the most untapped talent in Jacob Constanti, who was another guy that I frothed a first round pick, has
Yeah.
to be said. So he's going to come out hungry. But I look at your list and I don't think like this will sound weird for a North fan because North fans are probably like, Pom, we're rubbish. I look at your list though, and I don't think it's vomit. Like
Yeah.
I think down back, the key position. Yeah, I feel I share your concerns too. I'm not 100% convinced that Comben playing with Pink is the goer, but I think Charlie Comben was the find of the year last year.
Yeah. He had a great season.
Like he looked amazing. So now he's going to be the main man. Hopefully down the back there. I
Yeah.
think Larky's world class. He can turn a
Yeah.
game. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Midfield, I'll tell you right now, no one in the league wants to go up against that midfield
No,
because
and
when it's good, it's good.
yeah, well, even when we were, down and out in a lot of games, the midfield was still winning the clearances and winning the contested ball, and we were still, walking away from games winning that stat. I think Griffin Logue is someone that's always forgotten about. Down back last season, it was, cycling between Core and Comben as the 1-2, and then you've got Pink and you've got Callan Dawson and Biggie Newen, who's no longer at North, was all like a few players cycling through. We did trial Will Dawson, who was very raw, and he's a project and he will be in good stead in the next few seasons. So Griffin Logue hopefully comes back. He only played the 2 games this year. He'll come back. You've got your key pillars there of Comben. You've got Griff, and then you've got my guy, Aiden Core. But then someone like a Matt Whitlock does allow Charlie Comben to play with going back or going forward. Jack Darling also alleviates that pressure. It allows Comben to play with a bit more freedom. So all of a sudden, we're freeing up plays in the midfield, like you mentioned. Bring someone like Finn O'Sullivan in, takes the pressure off Jai Simpkin. Acquisition of Luke Parker takes the pressure off him too. So all of a sudden, these players can play with more freedom and can play the football they're meant to play. And that way, it allows the team to flow a little bit better as well.
Yeah, and I think some of the old guys you brought in this year, no one's talking about it, but Luke Urquhart and Luke Parker, very similar skill sets. If Urquhart looked, he was like, I'm really hard. I love my defense, but I
Mhm.
also have got a bit of pace and I like to break lines and kick goals. Hello, that was Luke Parker at 18, a guy
Yeah,
that was as tough as a coffin nail, but
yeah,
also loved to go. So
yeah,
I think he's going to be working with Luke Parker, and if he can pick up 10%, that's a win. Then you look at Whitlock. He's going to come in. He's working with Darling, who is probably one of the smartest key forwards and the prototype of all the forwards we see today. Undersized for what he should be,
yeah,
but he's a pain in the ass. So Jack Whitlock's going to be learning off him. I mean, Matt Whitlock's going to be learning off him and going, right, okay, cool. You're going to body me here. This is what I need to learn. Then you look at Caleb Daniel, like he's been there and he's done it. So that intelligence, we know he's a hard trainer. How many times has Caleb Daniel been told he's too small to play football? He's always fought through it. So that
yeah,
inspiration in the list is
yeah,
going to help these young kids as well. So I look at it. You've got experience in the right places, and I like you. Like, it doesn't. I don't think it's as bad as people make out. I would actually say last year, in my opinion, was a disappointment from where I thought you should be. You've got way more X Factor talent coming through the door now,
yeah.
and it screamed to me. Brady Rawlins was saying, "We ain't doing this anymore. This is the last year. Now
Yeah.
it's now or never."
I think next season is probably one of the most important seasons for the football club. It's a defining season in our history. And I know that probably sounds really dramatic, but this is it. I mean, we're a few seasons off Tasmania coming in. We are stocked with young guns. We've got some of the most marketable players in the competition. Harry Sheasel, obviously, no brainer, but Nick Larkey, LDU. If we can come out, burst out of the blocks in the first half of the season and really put on a show, LDU stays and we are set. Like we are absolutely, there's never been more pressure in recent history on this football club to perform than it is now. And I think that it will either make us or break us. And I'd like to think that internally, mentally, we are strong enough to allow it to make us and to spur us now onto a new upwards trajectory.
I couldn't agree more. And like, I know everyone says, "Oh, but if we're looking at targeted players next year, we've no one wants to come to North." And I'm like, that's a fair comment, but Cowan had the same. When we were bottom four of the ladder, the only way we got players was we had to buy punts. Like,
Yeah.
hope someone would be good. Great example, Mitch McGovern. We paid well overs for him, salary and to get the pick. We had to do that because we didn't know. And at the time, Mitch McGovern was the third forward at Adelaide. Yeah, he kicked goals, but now he's a
Mm.
defender. You look for a young player. North have finished what 17th, 17th, 18th, 18th, 17th. Of course, no one wants to come to you.
No.
This is where you do a Hawthorn this year. If you
Mm.
could somehow get to that happy 14th, 13th, the young players fly, Sheasel wags his tail, Wardlaw wags his tail. These young players do. Suddenly, out of contract next year, Lee Lear is a player I'd be targeting if I were
Yeah.
you guys. He's going to be looking and going, okay, I can stay at North and GWS. I'm not getting into the team though.
Yeah.
I want a part of that though. Like that
Mhm.
looks fun. I
Yeah.
want to play with Shizu. I want to burst out of the half back line.
Yeah.
I'm excited. That's when you've got to put yourself in the shop window. But when you've been bottom two for 5 years, of course no one wants to come because
No.
the only players you will attract, no offense, are Parker and Darling, guys who are on the death throes of
Yeah.
their career. They've been there and done it, and the mere reason for them continuing is to pass on their information, and that's what's turning them on now. It's
Yeah.
passing on the advice. You
Yeah. The
want to be able to
mentorship.
attract, yeah, 25-year-olds. This time next year, you want to go, right, we want to attract the 25-year-olds. We've got the
Mhm.
young talent. We want the middle bits. And
Yeah.
that I guarantee you now, you finish 14th, you will get an elite free agent. There'll be an
Yeah.
elite.
100%. And LD will stay. The buy-in from the playing group over the past 12 months has been incredible. She's all signed a long-term deal. Larky, Simkin, Cam Zerha, all of these guys are in it for the long haul. So the pieces are all there. Now we've just got to line her up and fire up. Pommy, to finish off, if you were to give North, and this is so basic, but if you were to give North a rating on their trade and draft period, how would you rate it?
Well, I think I always judge this about what you went in the draft with. So I mean, let's be honest. At first, it was just pick 2, and then what? Pick 66.
Yeah.
So I always like to compare it from what I expected from what you had to what you ended up with. If you had told me when you went in with 2 and 66, you would acquire River Stevens and 3 additional players. You would get Fidel Sullivan, a key defender, and some midfield point of difference. I would say A. I'd say it's a B plus A minus, and I maybe would lean towards an A minus because I'm a bit different to everyone else. I like that trade he did with Richmond because I
Yeah.
felt like that was a statement. That was, we don't care about next year.
Yeah.
We want to fix it now, today. And I don't think that deal will work out as bad because Richmond are 100% bottom. This puts pressure on you now to be good. If you can
Yeah.
get to 14th, that trade becomes even better. I think people forget. It gets
Yeah.
really good because suddenly that's going to be like pick 8 for pick 19. That's a
Yeah.
huge win.
Yeah. 100%. If anyone wants to find you, Pommy, where can they? I mean, I'm sure most people know where to find you, but just remind everyone where they can find you. Your draft content is superior every single year. So if anyone wants to follow along, where can they find you?
Well, you can just put the big light in the sky that says P and our peer. No, PommyInOz, all the socials. We even joined, is it Blue Sky this week? It's a bit different. But yeah, so PommyInOz, OZ. Yeah, you'll find me. And my chirpy little face is on all socials.
I definitely recommend Pommy. Thank you again for joining us on Kanga TV. I have no doubt we'll see you again in the very, very near future. Thank you.
Hey, my pleasure. Go Roos.